Impala Platinum's first half headline earnings per share jumped 66% to 573 cents. This due to a weaker closing exchange rate of 8 Rand 9 cents at the end of December last year compared to 6 Rand 77 at the end of June in the same year. Samantha Luring caught up with the company's CEO David Brown and asked him how the stronger platinum price and the weaker Rand worked in the miners' favour.
We did see obviously a slight increase in metal prices during the period under review, as well as a weakening in the Rand, and the weakening of the Rand certainly helped us quite considerably during that period of the 6 months ended to December. And in fact, revenue was up about 1% to 15.4 billion Rand.
Obviously, it's been a tough time in terms of wage disputes. You've had to lay off 17,000 workers at Rustenburg. We've seen production being hit there. Just for the period, you had tons milled down by just over 12%. What is the latest in terms of rehiring of employees?
Yeah, I think the 12% decrease, though, relates to the previous 6 months, and obviously we haven't actually reported the full impacts of the strike at this point in time. I can give you an update in terms of, as at the 14th of February, we've lost approximately about 60,000 ounces of platinum production at this point in time. We're effectively going through a three-phase process. The first phase was obviously in terms of dealing with the illegal strike. We have dealt with the illegal strike. The workers were dismissed some weeks ago. We are in the process of rehiring. We've opened the second phase, which is the rehiring phase. We've been successful to date. We've rehired about 6,000 employees, and we'll obviously be starting to get operations up and going as we get employees come back to work. The third phase effectively will be quite clearly in any of these type of industrial actions. There's obviously a opportunity and a need to work on morale and to remotivate the workforce, and obviously we're working on a series of initiatives to obviously help in that third phase.
How can government address this issue where this is an ongoing militant strike action continues to hamper production at mines?
Well, I think there's two things. I think one is quite clearly we as a company need to, and the management team need to continue to dialogue with relevant parties, which would be the NUM in this case, because they are the legal representative of the workforce. We are in fact having a high-level meeting over the weekend as well to actually see if we can actually start to put some solutions on the table to try and get the workforce back to work and get up and going again. At the same time, though, I think there's also a need to dialogue with the ministry related to security, and I think police presence and police action against people who are intimidating fellow workers and being involved in wanton destruction. I think there is a need for a very firm hand in this regard.
It's been a tough year, obviously a lot of issues with Implats. You've offered that 10% community share investment scheme. It seems that government in Zimbabwe isn't quite happy with that. Where do we stand right now with regards to Implats?
Well, I wouldn't say they're unhappy necessarily. I mean, we haven't had any formal response and feedback from the resubmission of our indigenisation plans we put in to government in November of last year. As you know, at that same time, we launched the Community Trust. We will start to look at operationalising that as soon as possible. Quite clearly from our point of view, there is some progress. We are moving ahead, though I think 2012 in Zim is going to be sort of more of a political year. I think with proposed elections, I think we probably will see that overshadowing business considerations. That's my view anyway. So I think we will have to take a backseat in that regard. But certainly we are available, we're open, we continue to dialogue with government as we have a list of issues that we are working individually with government officials to obviously knock those off the list. And I think we will make progress, and we are making progress.
Are you prepared to meet government's majority control stake requirement through indigenisation laws?
Well, I think, as I've always said, is that honestly, from my perspective, the 51%, if it's sold at fair value, that's one side of the equation. If it has to be in recognition of a give, I think you'll find that any good economic student will tell you that it doesn't work from an economic point of view, and in fact no company would be able to operate profitably and sustainably under those circumstances. So from our perspective, we're looking for embracing indigenisation as a principle, and certainly the fact that we were the first out of the starting blocks with regard to the Community Trust. Mimosa, we've also followed suit there. We are really embracing the whole principle of indigenisation and want to get going, and we want to get shareholders that include the communities, include our workers into the fray, so to speak. But at the same time, we've got to recognise that it's got to be a win-win situation for both the country and the company in terms of a sustainable mining industry.
Yet production has actually increased in Zimbabwe at a time where we saw it fall back at Impala Platinum. You are obviously spending at Impala Platinum now to ramp up that production, but it seems that your full year plans in terms of production targets at Zimbabwe are still on track.
Absolutely. Zimbabwe remains one of the world-class operational units in the PGM industry. It's one of the lowest cost producers in the industry. It works very well. I think one must recognise there's almost a detachment to operating, or the ability to operate on a day-to-day basis, and obviously the political and social impacts that obviously we're working through.
Production target-wise for 2012, do we have one online for the next 6 months?
Well, I think if you look at Impala Rustenburg, originally we'd forecast about 915 to 920,000 platinum ounces for Impala Rustenburg. To date, we've lost about 60,000 platinum ounces due to this illegal strike activity, and so obviously that won't be made up during the course of this financial year, which ends in June. As far as trying to give a target at this point in time, because we're still very much within phase 2, i.e. the rehire process, it's very difficult to give an accurate forecast at this point in time. But I think one must recognise that we probably think another 2 to 4 weeks will be needed for us to get up to a meaningful production rate again at Impala Rustenburg. So I think there will be some further impacts that will come through, but we'll only obviously be able to quantify those at some point in time.
You've got a few months left at Impala Platinum now. Why did you decide to step away?
Well, I've been an executive director, I was CFO and now CEO for in my 14th year on the board. I've had a good innings. It's been a long innings, and I felt that I really wanted to change. I wanted to do something different. There are a number of options opened. I joined the Vodacom board recently in January as a non-executive director. I want to spend a little bit more time doing something different.